All right, everybody, we're going to take some time to just look at what's coming in rhythmic dictation land. Our basic topic here is going to be looking at even more tuplets in 3/4 time. So that's sort of what's going on. I have a little worksheet for us to check out here. So let's go right to the worksheet here. And let's see what's going on. So just to give you a quick overview here, we're going to be looking at some quintuplets, 5 in the space of 4, quarter note tuplets, right, in 3/4. So 4 in the space of 3, 3 in the space of 2. That's what we're looking at. So these are ratios. Now, before we even go into these really specifically, the first thing I want you to really know is that we've spent a lot of time already with actually ideas that are in all of these. You should be able to see kind of right off the bat the quintuplets and the quarter note triplets. They should be familiar. But let's sort of get into a little bit more depth on these. So with the quintuplets, the main difference here is that we're not hearing these like we did in 4/4 time. When we did it in 4/4, we used that hippopotamus to count it, right? So we were like, here, let me get the metronome going. So this is the beat. We were doing something like 1, 2, hippopotamus 1, right? And we were sort of just filling up half the measure, right? So we were not doing it like it's going to be here, where it's not an even split of the measure, where the first half, for instance, is normal, and then we've got the hippopotamus or the quintuplet rhythm on the backside. Here, it's going to be taking place inside either the last 2/3 or the first 2/3 of the measure. And one of the interesting things we can do with it, not in 3/4 only, but in all meters, is feel how, and this is going to be a theme here, how it's just a little bit off of the 8th note. So if this is the beat, 8th notes in 3/4 time would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and, or I counted in 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? But if we have the quintuplet, we're thinking 1 hippopotamus 1, 1 hippopotamus 1, right? Sort of not perfect, but good enough, right? So we're feeling how 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and hippopotamus 1, right? It's just a little bit off of what we would normally feel because it's 5 in the space of 4. Okay. Oh, the other thing that I really want to point out there is that nothing is in these examples, nothing is actually happening on beat 3 of the measure. And that's one of the unique things about the quintuplet. So as we hear that again, the beat is going right on beat 3, right? But the quintuplet 1, hippopotamus 1, is not hitting on the beat. So that's an important thing. Let's do this next one here. This is 4 quarter notes in the space of 3 quarter notes, which is a really fun little 3/4 trick that we can explore. There's a couple ways that we can think about this, but the first thing that I just want to point out is that we actually have just recently been looking at essentially this rhythm. We were in 6/8 time, and we did 4 eighth notes in the space of 3 eighth notes. That's effectively what this rhythm is, but it's 4 quarter notes in the space of 3 quarter notes. Instead of just taking up half of a measure of 6/8 time, this will take up an entire measure of 3/4. So that we've already know that. So if we were in 6/8 and this was our 8th note, it'd be kind of a 1, this would be a slow 6/8, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? We just have been working on hearing something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? Sort of dot, 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 feeling that rhythm there. Now we're just saying that's the quarter note. And so we're feeling the tuplets in that context. The other thing that I really want to point out is just like when we were looking at this rhythm in 6/8 time, we found that we can write it in the tuplet or ratio way, but there is also an exact way that we can notate this rhythm. And so in 3/4, we would notate it as 4 dotted eighth notes. And that's actually super helpful because it can help us to see exactly where this is going to line up. And for my money, the most critical part of this for us to feel is where the third note of the pattern is going to hit. And it's actually in a pretty normal place in 3/4. It's on the and of 2. When you write it like this, it seems a little hard to see. Even like this, it seems hard to see. But this third note is on the and of 2. So if we're hearing a measure or feeling a measure of 3/4, if we can identify where the and of 2 is, we can then add this quadruplet rhythm, or we can add this dotted eighth note type rhythm in there. So let's first feel that. So here's our metronome. So here's our quarter notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch. I'm going to add the and of 2. So here's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 1 and 1 and, right? So we can find the and. We can find the and of 2. And if we can find the and of 2, then we can just subdivide further and aim for that, right? So if I'm feeling that again, so here's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 e and 1, right? It's right in there. But dot 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 dot, right? You feel how that 1 and but dot 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 dot, right? If you can aim for that middle note, the third note, then you can feel it. The other thing that can really help us to feel it, and this is the beauty of the dotted rhythm, is that we can figure out where all of them would be, and they would be precisely on 1, the of the first beat, 1E and because this is 3/16. Then we've already said the third one is on and then the last one's on the E of 4. 1, the of 1, and of 2, E of 3. I think I said 4 just a second ago, but the E of 3. And so we actually can have this be really precise. So again, I'm feeling 1 and 1 and E, 1 and E, 1 and E, right? And that's where it really nicely slots in. It all comes from 1 and 1 it's hard to say the syllables, but 1 E, 1 and E, right? It feels very backwards to say it that way. But that's the 4 in 3 quadruplet. And then we're just adding in the quarter note triplet 2, 3, 4. So this is just like the quintuplet up at the top, where it's not going to take an even half of a measure. It either takes the first 2 beats or the beats 2 and 3 of a measure in 3/4. So we're not even going to go over that. You know how those are. The interesting thing that we can find here, though, is by putting some of these together, particularly the 4 and 3 and the 3 and 2, we actually get this nice, neat cascade where the note values, we can just make them incrementally smaller and smaller. So the interesting thing about doing this in dictation is trying to parse those differences, where we have to feel, number one, over how many beats is the tuplet pattern going. So we want to be able to feel the difference between this one, which is weird rhythm over an entire measure, whereas here it's just weird rhythm over 2 quarter note beats, right? We can sort of get this fun little cascade thing. So if we feel this, right, so here we go from the beginning. This would be, I'm going to not count it naturally. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, ba da 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 da. Do you feel how the notes just get slow or quicker and quicker as they go? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, ba da 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 da, right at the end there. It's a very interesting sort of just shift that we can have, and I hope you can feel and hear how they're just incrementally different from one another, but the 4 and 3 especially feels very distinct from the others because of the way that it has that middle point, da, 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 where it lands on the and of 2. So we'll be exploring these in dictation, and let's do the first one right now.